AI is the new fire invention that we have for the humanity.
I had a lot of problems which I never knew that it existed, right? And right now I am able to have a listener, intelligent listener, probably the world's best advanced reasoning model is listening to me and offering me very, very interesting perspectives which I never had. People want to optimize their life in every bit they want, right? Because there is a whole conversation around that you only live once, right? Then so you want to optimize every bit. So mediocrity meeting ChatGPT is actually interesting. Why? Because you are making mediocre people much better with an intelligent tool. The last 100 years of knowledge work which you've been used to is more of like employee mindset. You get your salary, you get your fee, right? We never thought of as a builder. There's only less than 5% of the people who are like thinking like a builder, entrepreneur, or a system builder, or a creator, right? Why? Because it took a lot of agency to do that. Now maybe 25% people can do that. Whatever AI use case you're trying today, assume that this is the worst thing you will ever see. Tomorrow it's going to be 1% better.
Artificial intelligence is no longer just about machines solving problems. It's beginning to shape how we live, think, and even heal. But can AI truly play a role in therapy? And what does its rise mean for the future of humanity? In today's episode, I am joined by Krishnakumar as we explore the fascinating intersection of AI and human well-being. We dive into how AI is being used in healthcare, the potential benefits it brings, and the risks it carries. This conversation is about much more than technology. It's about the choices we make as a society and how we integrate AI into something as intimate as our health and emotions. Hope you enjoy this episode. And now we go over to Krishnakumar. Krishnakumar, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you finally.
Thank you, Vignesh. I've been looking forward to this.
KK, how do you see the humanity dealing with AI? And I want to have a background because you usually go and give talks about AI and train the team in different companies. Now, actually, I usually talk about health, mental health, like certain conditions where Ayurveda can help, and also what our healthy routines can bring in. And recently, I had a patient coming in telling she uses AI as her therapist. And I was like, okay, that is something new. And there was a meme and it was quite interesting. And I'm able to relate to many patients saying that also. And also talking to some of my friend doctors. So this patient was sitting with a doctor and whatever symptoms he's saying, he's typing it in his chat GPT. And the patient finds out, oh, he's putting it in chat GPT and suddenly he's in a bit confused. And he's thinking, I hope he has a chat GPT Pro to that extent. So AI is the new, what you call, like once we had the printing press. Okay, or let's start with, finding fire and then printing press and then inventing wheel. Okay, in between, I'm not putting in the right sequence. And I think AI is the new fire invention that we have for the humanity. Now, where do you see this going? And I'm quite excited to have this conversation with you on this.
Great. I'm equally curious like you about how AI is evolving. And the last 2.5 years, we've seen AI coming into hands like ChatGPT, tools like Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Meta. Even on WhatsApp, you have AI. Right? All these tools making AI accessible to us. Earlier, like if you look at before ChatGPT, it was not accessible to us. Like it was used by big tech companies. Like say Google used to use it for like finding out whether this email is spam or not, right? Or Meta would say, this guy is going to like say, Muna, let me try to push some ads to him, right? Things like that. Wherein big tech companies used AI as a way to influence you, to sell something to you. But right now we have tools like ChatGPT becoming a companion for you, right? Which is, I think there is a shift here, a quiet shift of say power to the consumer, where you have the access to AI in very interesting ways where, of course, you have free AI right now. And intelligence was never free before because if you have to access anybody's intelligence, we have to pay them, we have to persuade them, we have to, do so many things, right, to get the information, and it is valuable. And and from information to intelligence is even more valuable. Why? Because somebody's putting their long years of expertise and experience and subject matter knowledge and everything together to solve one of your problems, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have a problem and if you want to access the intelligence of someone, it is first of all difficult. Why? Because you have to access them. Second, they charge a fee for you, right? And thirdly, sometimes you may not even get the access, right? And fourthly, even if you get access, you may probably get a half-baked idea of what you want to really solve, right? But with tools like ChatGPT evolving, so I'm not saying ChatGPT was great in the beginning, right? It had its own problems. Like, say, it was even considered to be a little funny when it comes to answering some questions. So people never believed it for a long period of time. People didn't see it reliable in the initial months. They thought that this is just an experiment by OpenAI. And then day by day, week by week, month by month, we saw that it is improving. And the improvement was not visible on media. The improvement was visible to the users. People putting the same problem 3 months back, getting far more better, reliable, accurate answers. And they're able to relate to those answers. And ChatGPT is able to understand the context better, personalize it for you, understand the layers of memory, right? And almost like becoming you in the process, right? Like, so whereas sharing the context was a difficult thing earlier. Like, if you have to sit with a doctor for 30 minutes, still your diagnosis can't be done unless the doctor is like pretty experienced, like meeting thousands of people for the same scenario over and over again. And that is how the expertise is developed. Here you get that with the humanities intelligence, kind of evolving in the process of building AI systems, which makes it surprising. So the question to you is like, how are people using it in very, very interesting ways? And the OpenAI itself don't know how people are using it for. So they keep asking their users, like, why are you using this for? What are your weirdest use cases? What are your wildest use cases? And they keep coming back saying that I kind of share my most personal things to ChatGPT to get answers. Like for example, I have a problem with my sibling, right? How do I deal with it? I have a problem with my partner, and this is the context, like, what is the best way I can solve this? So a lot of things which were in their mind, which was not able to get the right outlet, is coming through ChatGPT, or for that matter, any tool. Because of two reasons. Why? Because these tools are not judging you. Secondly, these tools are instantly accessible. And thirdly, they are able to relate to those answers much better than probably a human expert, right? Which is surprising, which is making me all curious, and also sometimes feel that where is it all going, right? Now, people may ask, like, hey, you may need still therapist. You may still need someone like a human listener to be there, who can help you, of course. But those kind of human experts are very expensive, right? And they are not accessible to like probably 90% of the people, right? Maybe 10%.
You might even have a waiting list.
You might have a waiting list. You might have to go through the process of the intent to do that itself is very huge, right? To decide to go to a human therapist itself is a huge decision for a lot of people. Whereas in ChatGPT, you can just if you know English, if you can, probably specify your problem a little bit articulatively, it makes it easy for you, right? I mean, so the friction is less, right? So to do anything, there was a friction earlier, and right now the friction is getting lesser and lesser with AI, right? I think that's one of the beautiful things which AI is doing, right?
Hello everyone. Today I would like to share an information about our upcoming 14-day immersive Ayurvedic retreat in Goa. Now, this is my first interactive workshop style retreat where I will be personally guiding each guest throughout the stay. Now, along with the Ayurvedic and Panchakarma treatments that I will be designing for you, we will also be engaging with scheduled lectures and interactive workshops on Ayurveda, healthy habits, bulletproofing yourself from burnout, and most importantly, integrating spirituality in daily life. The whole purpose of this retreat is not just to get the best Panchakarma treatments, but to go back with a completely new outlook of health and connection with your true authentic self. Now, the retreat is scheduled to start on 22nd December of 2025 until 5th of January 2026. It's exactly 14 days. Now, this is an exclusive retreat, which means the whole property where the retreat is going to happen is reserved only for the workshop participants. Now, the location for this retreat, this is our newly launched Sitaram Ayurveda experiences at the Postcard, Old Goa. Now, as we have only 6 rooms here, we can only take up to 10 guests maximum to ensure personalized attention and privacy to each of our guests. To know more about the details of this workshop, but where do you see you have the pros and cons? Where do you see the cons? Recently, I think Sam Alton in one of his interviews saying that people are treating ChatGPT like a best friend and sharing some of the most personal things. And if some issue happens with the government, they might have to pass this to the whatever files they might need to share this. So in such conditions, yes, it is true that we don't feel judged because it's just a computer without a soul, and it's just giving you information. But so you feel actually much less judged, and because most of the people, today we have this concept of being vulnerable is the superpower, and the reason why people struggle to be vulnerable is the fear of being judged that you're weak. So with a AI, you don't feel judged, so you're happy to, as you said. So to get a good therapist who don't judge you is it takes, maybe there are 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 1,500 therapists, maybe depending on locations. In some parts maybe you don't get it at all. There's no access in the rural parts of the world.
Right.
So when you have this in the local language also, it makes a big difference. But what do you see the cons of this?
So one is people becoming, relying it on too often. So whenever I do workshops, I ask them like how many conversations you have with AI every day. And they would say like, so I asked this question, 5 is like, okay, 5%, 25 is like 50%. Wow. 50% of the people are having 25 conversations every day with ChatGPT, Gemini, or any of these tools, right? Like maybe it's a Google search thing, or it's just to find out something, or it's some real things they're sharing. Now, what if like the GPT-5, the new model, is surprisingly good and people feel good about using it more and more, right? They feel addicted to it. Like, so when I say use the word addicted, it's not in the bad sense. It's like people can't live without it. Like, so people feel, I had a lot of problems which I never knew that it existed, right? And right now I am able to have a listener, intelligent listener, probably the world's best advanced reasoning model is listening to me and offering me very, very interesting perspectives which I never had. And to get similar perspectives, I have to go through so much of pain of like, accessing a therapist, getting into waiting line, and then probably getting there. And I don't need therapy like say 1 hour, like twice a month, right? I want it every day, right? So like when I say therapy, it's not just therapy on a medical level, right? It's more about having conversations, getting to know perspective, and optimizing your life in every important way, right? So people ask very crazy questions. Like, they would even ask like, is it good to wait in the car while while I wait for someone, or should I get in the cafe? Right? What is the power equation between waiting in the car and getting into the cafe? And then people want to figure out, right? Now, where are they getting these ideas from? Now, when it comes to getting ideas, and you need ideas to interact with AI, right? So people watch short form content, Instagram, YouTube Shorts and all, and they get the keywords, right? And when they get the keywords, they get to know, oh, this is interesting, but how do I apply it in my life, right? So get a keyword, they get a concept, they get a framework, they get a term, like, and they say, okay, I have this term which I can ask ChatGPT and apply this to my life. And ChatGPT instantly understands this, right? For example, in management, you call it Pareto analysis, right? And like 20% of your
80%,
20% of your efforts actually get you 80% of results, right? Which we all know, right? Now, how do I apply Pareto analysis to say probably doing my podcast, right? Never thought of it. Like, I don't know. And I kind of share my basic context about this and say, apply Pareto analysis. So the kind of ideas which I get is probably far superlative when it comes to getting to do that kind of a thing. So optimization is key here, right? People want to optimize their life in every bit they want, right? Because there is a whole conversation around that you only live once, right? Then so you want to optimize every bit of it, unlike like how our parents or grandparents said that this is not just our life, there is a long-term thing to it. Like people want to optimize today, right? Whereas these tools are helping them to do that, right? And content has played a big role here. And so the growth of ChatGPT is not just because of AI. It's also about like how people have consumed content. People have picked up ideas from hosts like podcast hosts and various things, and they know the keywords. All they have to do is to use those words out in ChatGPT and apply that and use it, right? Which makes it like the language with the AI, right? So to interact with AI, you need good language, right? When I say language, is keywords, terms, concepts, and ability to specify your problem very clearly, right? So it's like a problem statement. So every prompt you put in the ChatGPT is like a problem statement. You're defining it in very clearly. You're asking AI, to kind of solve this particular problem for me. This is a role you want to apply. For example, if I want ChatGPT to give me great answers, I would say like act like a cognitive behavioral therapist who's specialized in midlife career crisis, right? In India, right? So if you look at in US, it's entirely different. If India is different, right? So they say midlife career crisis in India and in technology sector. So ChatGPT will super contextualize this, and it's not going to give you generic answers. This person is living in, say, like a city like Bangalore in the mid 40s, is like a little confused for almost a decade, because not being able to pivot much. And this person is also going through biological differences. So it kind of contextualizes far deeper. And that deeper context enables ChatGPT to give far, far more relatable answers to the user. And the moment the user gets this, he or she becomes, wow,
I didn't know about this.
this is great. This perspective really helps me. Right? And unlike a cliche perspective, like which you get mostly on content, right? Most of the content is cliche, right? This is unique. This is contextual. This is very specific. And they pick up, at least like, for example, out of 5 ideas, if they pick up one, they try and use it, it changes a bit in their life, right? That's how they get more excited about these tools.
There is some statement. If you can define and write the problem clearly in a book, you already will have a solution just by defining it. I think one of the key things of using AI to its best is if you can ask the questions in the right sequence.
Exactly.
And that's what you call a correct prompt.
Absolutely. And so we call it like in our workshops, we call mega prompt. So how much time would take to write a prompt? Usually people take, say, like 20 seconds, right? Which means that you're hardly writing a couple of lines or sometimes even a line. Sometimes they throw a keyword and so you still get a lot of things from ChatGPT, right? If you just put a keyword, right? But the point is it's generic answers. You're not seeking information here, right? So there are two ways of looking at it. One is, are you seeking information from ChatGPT or are you looking at an insight from ChatGPT, right? Insight is different from information.
Can you explain?
So information is that I want to know about how CBT works.
Like an actual thing.
How cognitive behavior therapists operate. Right? Now I want to know, like, I'm a mid-career professional, and I would need, say, these kind of conversations like every day for 10 minutes. I can't afford to spend time on a CBT, right? How can I get this conversation done daily? And what are the questions I should keep asking ChatGPT to get the conversation flowing? That's the prompt.
You can even ask a prompt on how to prompt.
Exactly. So if I don't know what kind of questions to ask a therapist, right? Probably not everyone is gone through that, right? So you only, once you go through that, you get to know. You can ask like, hey, what are the 10 questions which I can ask a therapist to help me in getting perspectives about what I'm going through? That changes the whole game because you are asking AI itself to become a better conversation partner for me and enable AI to kind of interact with me better. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is just seeking information, which we were always doing for the last 15 years on Google searches, on everywhere we do that. But AI is not just meant for information seeking. AI is meant for insight seeking. Secondly, we want to know what kind of information could be super contextual to me. And information which is generic is all there, out there. We can access it anytime. Like, say, for example, Wikipedia has that, right? But AI is not Wikipedia. AI is much deeper, contextual, memory. You have more personalized approach to solving your problem, right? So once you understand this power of large language models, like, so OpenAI is a large language model, Google Gemini is a large language model, Anthropic is a large language model. What is a large language model? These are AI systems trained with large amounts of pre-trained data. And it has something called unsupervised learning. So why I'm sharing this term is why, because it's very important for us to know how this AI is getting so powerful. So there are two things which really makes AI powerful at this point in time. One is unsupervised learning, which means that earlier AI needed a lot of supervised learning, which means we have to tell AI, hey, this is 1,000 pictures of cat. This is cat. This is how the cat looks like, right? And this is Persian cat. This is different kinds of cats. And you have to label every bit of images of cat and train AI. Hey, this is how we use structured data, labeled data to train AI to make it feel like what this is all about. Right now, with unsupervised learning, because we have something called transformer architecture, which has changed, that's a disruption behind generative AI, right? In 2017, there was an article by Google which spoke about transformer architecture. The article's name is Attention is What You All Want, right? And you can check it out. That's the beginning of the transformer architecture world, and GenAI has kind of emerged since then.
Transformer architectural world.
Yeah. So word, right? So whatever we see right now in ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini or Meta or is called generative AI, which means it is able to generate something for you, right? Text, image, video, code, it's able to generate that because of this technology called transformer architecture. Now, what makes transformer architecture interesting? It's two things. One is unsupervised learning, which means that self-learning. What if AI is just need to be given data and AI will learn itself? Earlier, we had to train it. So just like a child who has to require a lot of tuition, right? Train it, right? And then make it understand what you want. Right now, AI only requires data. Data presents data, which means that it can do faster. So because humans don't have time to train AI. But what if AI started learning in itself? Right? That's happening in the transformer architecture. Right? So unsupervised learning has made the growth of AI exponential. Recently, I was watching the interview of the CEO of Claude, Dario, right? And he was saying that, again, Anthropic Claude is owned by Anthropic. Of course, Anthropic is the LLM. Even their engineers don't know how these AI systems really work, how they're generating the output, right? So the algorithmic design of how the generation of output is happening is still unknown to their own engineers who have designed it. Why? Because it starts learning in itself. So this is a concept we have been kind of having in the science fiction, right? What if AI learn itself? That's happening right now. No. Second is, okay, it learned in itself, it gives responses. But if it is not like what we really want, how will we help AI to know that this is a feedback from outside? This is what you call as a human feedback. So the second bit of what GenAI, why it's becoming unstoppable, is because of its ability to receive human feedback on a conversation to conversation basis. Like I'm sure in ChatGPT you would have understood there is thumbs up and thumbs down, there is a feedback, people go for iteration. Every iteration is taken as a feedback. Every thumbs up and thumbs down is taken as a feedback. So imagine now ChatGPT has got almost 700 million users. 2.5 billion conversations are happening every day. You imagine you have 25 conversations every day and you give feedback, you iteration. And the moment you copy that content, it understands that, okay, this is the content they're going to use. You click on copy and then bring it to the Google Doc, whatever, right? They know, okay, this is something which they like. Why did they like it? Because they have iterated so much, right? What are the kind of fine tuning, what is the kind of modification they want in the content? They understand it. So each of these feedback is taken seriously, which is called reinforcement learning. So AI is learning in itself and is also getting feedback from humans, reinforcing the learning. The combination of it actually makes this powerful. So whatever we see right now as like magic is because of these two things. So why I'm sharing this is because a lot of users, who are skeptical about it, might be thinking, what's a big deal, right? Is it just pattern prediction? Is it just completing sentences? Not exactly. It was, but now it is more than that. It is able to use the intelligence of 700 million users.
And it's going to grow.
And it's going to grow, and with absolute more compute power, with more algorithmic redesign, right? With the feedback and with the large amounts of pre-trained data going into it, it's going to be crazy.
I think it was Peter Diamandis. He's a futurist.
Yeah.
He was saying that the kind of growth and technology disruption that we're going to see in the next 10, 20 years will be more than what we saw in whatever history we saw.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting what all it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at last 100 years, right, like So 2025 right now and 1925, right? You go to ChatGPT and ask for, say, like, which are the 10 disruptions which happened in 1925 to 2025. We have a lot, right? Including the invention of DNA. Like, people never knew what DNA was, like, till 1960s. People didn't know, like, mechanization, like, till 1940s, right? Printing press, like, that happened, like, say, a couple of centuries back. But then the point of this industrial revolution where, people can do things repetitively, can do mass production, urbanization, all that also created a lot of mess. It also advanced human civilization. Couple of world wars, which actually, accelerated the whole innovation bit. Like, I'm sure they would have gone through how Germany accelerated a lot of innovation. Why? Because they were actively participating in the World War II, and they had a lot of people to deal with, right? So all this accelerating. So military got accelerated with innovation. Now, what took AI almost like 50, 60 years to grow like this? I always think that. So the term AI, started in 1960s. So there was a guy called Alan Turing, right? And if you still go to ChatGPT and search for Alan Turing test, you'll find his test to be pretty relevant even now. So he said something about AI. He said if AI is looking like AI, it's not great AI. So you go to ChatGPT, create an image, and if the image is pretty evident that it's AI, okay, it's still evolving, right? But if it starts looking like a real image where you're not able to identify it with the human-like cinematography, right? Then you're worried. Wow,
This is scary.
it is scary. Why? It's human-like. It's real. So Alan Turing test is all about for AI companies to decide. So why we like ChatGPT? Why? Because it just talks like us, right? It has its quirkiness, it has its informal attitude, which is very human-like. And the reason why people go back again and again is because of that, right? So Alan Turing says that good AI will never look like AI, right? It will look like a human, but it will sound like a human, right? It will feel like a human, right? And like, for example, there are voice agents. Right? So a couple of years back, when we talked to a voice AI agent, it's pretty obvious. Like, that is an AI agent. Of course, you cooperate with that. Why? Because you want information, right? Right now, the voice agents whom you won't be able to identify. Like, for example, the voice agent in Chennai will have a North Chennai accent in English, which means you'll be able to, it'll take probably like some time to realize this is an AI agent. Why? Because the first 2, 3 minutes, you'll never feel that this is an AI voice, right? So AI has reached a level of maturity to make it look and sound like human, right? And that's the real maturity we're waiting for. Because when that maturity is arrived, then it can be deployed at scale. Imagine the contact centers where you don't get anyway people, right? So it's very difficult to get people for those kind of jobs right now. Young people don't want to work for repetitive, boring stuff, right? So it's a natural replacement of, people don't wanting to get to work there used by AI.
So there is this, when you're talking about, it can actually replicate the human expression. It was one ad I saw of the beer Heineken. I think in between one football match I saw, or I don't know if it's on the internet. And there's a robot. The robot is playing golf, and the robot is kicking the ball to the goalpost and doing everything a human is doing. And the robot is having a walk in the evening, and he sees a bar, and a lot of humans are enjoying a cup of beer. And then suddenly they all are laughing and having fun, and the robot is feeling, "Oh, am I missing something?" So what they try to show is there are certain things you cannot go to the extent of humans.
Yeah.
And I think when I saw that, I thought that it's going to reach such an extent that we humans don't have to work at all in the future. And we just need to give prompts and everything is done. Or maybe there's going to be a time when we'll have some chips, or, your eyes become your iPhone or things like that inside your brain. You can compute things, and you'll have access to all this. I don't think you're quite far away from that. Looking at the way it's going
Very
forward.
interesting thought, actually. Because if you look at the current work models, right? Like, say, we wake up at 6 and start working from 10, then we have a 10 to 6 models, right? It all emerged very recently, like in maybe 100 years, right? Before that, we had timings which are like based on weather, based on like agrarian, schedules, right? because we had different kind of jobs. Like, for example, if you are in a Handler, then the timeline is very different. You have to go wake up and go early in the morning to kind of catch your prey. 10 to 6 models, right, which required you to be in a place, work for your employer, right, 8 hours a day, and then, I mean, even if you get your job done by noon, you still have to stay there and act like you're doing something serious, right? So this knowledge work model is seriously questioned by AI right now. If you look at most of the programmers right now, get their job done probably like in a couple of hours time, right? They have, when they exercise the choice of having to work from home, they don't have to kind of tell their people what time I'm working and everything. It's as long as your outcome is done, it's happy. The company is happy, right? So most of them get their job done in 2 hours. So then what do they do otherwise? They watch content, like probably your video, right? And the reason, like in the last 3 years, you have seen significant increase in the content views. Why? Because people are saving time with AI, need engagement with content, right? And the easiest way to engage with something is a content, right? You can't play basketball every day, right? You have to find, and it's not every place you have access to outdoor sports, right? What you can do is maybe take your phone, which is the easiest, and start watching content, like long form, short form content for like. And in the last 3 years, if you look at, because of AI, saving time, efforts, and sometimes boring work done by AI, right? You are getting at least 3-4 hours extra every day to watch content and still feel productive. Right? Not that they're lazy. They're getting their job done, like proposal done, 1 hour, 2 proposals done, content done, most of the knowledge work, bit of communication done, email is done. Earlier, people take their laptop and think about writing the proper email. It took almost 30-40 minutes for them to kind of do that. Right now, can be done fast. So seriously, a lot of time which they used to spend on doing these things are getting done easily, which means that the time is spent more on content, right?
If you use it in the right way, it's a great way. Otherwise, it can also be detrimental because you have a lot of free time and don't know what to do, and you could engage in, say, intelligences that can also say it's like go down the rabbit hole. I was remembering a conversation I was having in a family dinner, and a group of the family, especially who are somewhere aged 65 and above, and they were talking about how difficult their life was when they were in their 20s and 30s. And there was a architect, he was talking before we had AutoCAD, how they used to draw everything with a compass and pen and how challenging it was, but how sharp their mind was. And some people in that discussion was so obsessed by saying that AI is going to destroy your intelligence. You don't have to think anymore. And there was another group that was like, that's not true. We will actually be able to use our intelligence for something better instead of using some boring things. Why would you want to keep memorizing stuff and if AI can do this? So you could actually free up time to do the things that are more meaningful to you. And this debate was going. And I was observing this and I'm seeing both sides. There is a truth to one side and there is a lot of truth to other side as well. Quite some time ago, I had this conversation with I'm sure you might have known this Gopi Kale. He works for Google. So I asked him, Gopi, what do you think about how this technology is going to change? And he said, yes, technology will always come with both sides. It will have its good side and the not so good side. And it's all about how we are going to use it and what's your intention behind it. It's same like a knife.
Yeah.
In a surgeon's hand or a chef's hand, it does a lot of things. But if somebody with the wrong intention, it can create a lot of violence. Now, the future is going to be how are we going to, navigate the humanity when we have such. It's like I don't know if you've seen this Jungle Book, Mowgli, and says whoever has control over the fire is going to control the forest.
Yeah.
But we all are taught, don't play with fire. But we should be like how to tame the fire, how to play with the fire, how to use the fire in a more constructive way so that it doesn't destroy you, but actually you can use it for much noble, greater things.
Right.
I think that's going to be a great, noble challenge actually to see how we humanity go with it. And as you said, if the AI can actually mimic, we see a lot of scams happening because of that.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, In Japan, they have artificial intelligence girlfriends or boyfriends.
Yeah.
And on one hand, this can make people quite isolated. This is another side. And recently, I had a podcast interview with a Ayurvedic pediatrician, and he was telling how children get so addicted with the screen time, they don't want to socialize anymore. Now, maybe because I'm a Ayurvedic doctor, I get to see the dark sides of this. So I might come up with a narrative that how this is, but we definitely see how it's going to change and make the world much better. But the future is going to be how we are going to minimize these cons, and that's going to be one challenge. If we can fix that, this AI is going to do so many good things.
Yeah. So, like there are good actors and bad actors in every technology. Like when social media started, like people thought that this is going to be like helping to bond
Yeah.
with people, and then we saw cyberbullying. Then we saw relationship get destroyed by social media, right? Then we also saw a lot of college reunions. Why? Because it's social media enabled it, right? So you have different ways of looking at the same tool technology. I think that's the same with the AI itself, right? So there are a lot of people who are using it for productive, constructive, therapeutic things. There are people are using it for shortcuts. So things which AI helps you to do is to kind of cut work seriously, right? And there is certain kind of work which is you can't skip. Like for example, children can't skip homework because homework teaches you to think differently, solve that problem well. And if children start using it for doing homework, then that's not a great thing to do, right? But they can use it for learning complex subjects in entertaining ways. And that's the best use case of AI, right? For example, a child who doesn't quite like the physics teacher probably will shut off the mind like when you're in the classroom, right? But she can come back and say like, okay, today's session was velocity. Teach me like an entertaining teacher. And ChatGPT will give you fascinating ways of teaching you velocity that the child will never forget, right? With examples, with applied areas of velocity, and even helping the child to get curious more about it. So teacher was unable to do that, obviously circumstantial things, but ChatGPT helped to reignite the curiosity of that topic for a child. Why? Because it told in a different language itself, right? So one is a constructive way of looking at it. The other one is to cut work and use it for shortcuts, right? So when calculator was invented, a lot of people say, no, people are going to forget multiplication and basic arithmetical thinking. But what essentially happened was people started using it to solve bigger problems, right? So calculator is not meant for calculating 100 into 100, right? Which you can do, right? Calculator is meant to calculate like 12,556 into 14,256, which only 1% of the people can only try, right? Like maybe math Olympiad people can try that. 99% of the people don't know what it is, right? So any tool is not meant for just making it easier. It's also for mediocre people to solve harder problems, right? So we always thought that, hey, people are not learning. People are not anyway learning, right? Can a mediocre person now take lesser efforts to learn this? So we call it like learning activation energy. For example, if I want to learn calculus today, sorry, I don't have the energy today, right? I don't want to even start with it, right? But if with ChatGPT, probably you can try, right? Because I have less energy, I have mediocre intellect, but I have ChatGPT, which is on an extreme side, right? So mediocrity meeting ChatGPT is actually interesting. Why? Because you are making mediocre people much better with an intelligent tool. Getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this is the possibility what we should see, right? It's not to cut work alone. It is also to solve problems which you're never ever able to solve.
It's the intent behind.
It's the intent. It's like, so there are seemingly a lot of things which we've thought as impossible. So let's look at in a knowledge work. You will see that if you're not a data analyst, can you even try to make sense of a data? It's a 12,000 variables, right? It's not possible, right? Right now, you have an e-commerce real-time data coming on a dashboard and you're not able to make any sense of it. But ChatGPT 5, extract the Excel sheet from that dashboard, put in ChatGPT and ask, say, like, can you share 10 insights which will help me to improve sales? That's all what you want to know, right? You don't want to make sense of data. You want to solve a problem. Hey, I want to increase the festival sales. Now, using this data, what are the strategies which I should play out to make sure that I am converting more during festive season? GPT-5 will read almost 1,000 pages, right? And it can read so much of complexity, arithmetics and everything. It brings out the data and tells you, hey, this is the core strategy you should play out. And you can say, okay, I'm doubtful, right? You can even debate with AI, saying that, can you find out or can you critically evaluate your own output? And ChatGPT does a good job of evaluating its own output critically, right? Then you can even ask, like, can you expose the biases in this output? In a way that you are challenging the output, you're debating with it, you're actually making a very informed judgment, by interacting with AI. It's not that you're becoming dumber in the process. In the process, you're asking better questions. You're using the intelligence of the AI, debating with it, challenging it, and making better sense of it. So the two ways of looking at it is, one is using it like blindly, the other one is using it thoughtfully. Two different games, but how we play out is to be something which you need to really work on.
When you're talking about, we don't use calculator for 100 and 200, but we use it for something. And there will be 1 in million people who are like, the best prize winner of spelling bee, like who can calculate, like, is it? So there is a story about a sage, and he was going to a river to cross the river to another bank, other side of the bank. So a gentleman comes and says, I heard that you are a great sage and people worship you. Do you want to see how powerful I am? And then he started walking on the water. And then he comes back. See, this is how powerful I am. Can you do anything like that? And he said, no, I don't. I'm quite amazed that you are able to do. And how did you manage to do this? And he said, I practiced for almost 30 years of penance. And that's how I managed to walk on water. Oh, it took you 30 years. He said, if you pay few cents, I can catch that boat and go to the other side. And you spent all your 30 years just to do such a basic work.
Exactly.
So that's how it is coming out like.
Very interesting you said this. And now, what if like you tell your child, like say after 5 years, that you used to go to Google search and then search for, say, Ayurveda medical stuff, right? And then you go to tens or hundreds of websites,
And you'll have sponsored.
read it, and bring it with curated table. Your child would look you like you were born in a stone age, right? Because they would never do that. They would never have to do that. So the beauty is here, and so people ask me like, what is that thing which actually excites you? And I have said like, if I'm 22 now with AI, I think the world is endless, right? Not that we don't have opportunities, but having time is also important, right? So AI plus time makes a lot. AI plus time plus youthful energy
It's a deadly combination.
It's a deadly combination. And I keep meeting my, nephews and nieces, and some of them are excited about the whole turnout of events, but some of them are like, just taking it as another tool, right? So people who are excited about it, I ask them like, what keeps you excited? They say like, this is for the first time they feel that you don't need to do a lot of manual work. For example, a programmer, right? So somebody who did BTech in computer science, he went to the UK for learning further, and then he came back and said, I always used to think that is computer science a programmer job is as good as a mason. Like a mason is not paid as much, but then it is as good as that. Like you have construct your program code by code, line by line. Of course, you have GitHub and everything, but still you are making it happen, right? With GPT-5, you can actually say have 800 lines of code in like 5 minutes and make a proper software, right? So there is a term called software on the fly, which means that you construct something, solve a problem, and delete the software. Earlier, when you build a software, it was like building a house. Even if the software was useless, you keep it.
Yeah.
Because you took so much of time for you to build it, right? And right now you have software on the fly, which means that you want to play a game today. You build a game, by the end of the game, you delete it, right? So Can you imagine that kind of a thing? Why? Because the building itself took only like say less than 10 minutes, right? And you played for like a couple of hours and then you felt like this game is boring and you delete it, right? Or you probably share it to somebody else, right? The way in which construction of internet-based software is emerging is pretty surprising. You go to any programmer, coder, you ask them, say, like somebody with 5 years of experience, they would have seen pre-ChatGPT era. They would say, oh my God, it takes so much of time for me to construct a proper code, right? Now, GPT-5 can actually replace entire coders in the world. Why? Because so GPT 4.5 or 4 was like used to replace 99% of the coders, right? Because 1% coders had that edge, which 4 now 5 is like replacing everyone. Why? Because it is able to produce at high speed, high level of accuracy, and high with absolutely less number of bugs. So even if there are bugs, right, GPT-5 itself will go and find out the bugs and fix it, which means that it's basically fixing everything. All it needs is your approval, probably your nudge and a bit of iteration, right? This was possible. So from becoming a mason, you're becoming an architect now. Like you were a mason earlier, right? Right now, you know how the whole thing is going to be turning out to be. It's not just a building, right? It needs a life, it has its own thing, right? So a coder can now think of, like in the next 2-3 years, can think of becoming a software architect by having a host of AI tools which will help them to build the entire software, including the front end and the back end, which is the most surprising thing as of now, which is possible with GPT-5. And if you look at people like Satya Nadella talking about like 50-60% of the code of Microsoft is written completely with AI itself, making it even crazy because they have the best coders. Like, so if you look at, they can afford to pay any coder in the world, like 10s programmers, but still they think that their own programmers are
using the best.
using AI to make this. So manual work, right? How can this completely replace manual work? And like you said, it can open up new avenues for humans, which we're never familiar with, right? Even today, right? When I get a lot of time, I keep on social media and everything. My father used to ask me, like, how do you get so much of time? You keep doing a lot of things, but still you are everywhere, right? How do you get this time? And I can't explain like how I get my work done, right? Because in most of the conventional work, 8 hours, 10 hours means a serious amount of manual work going into it, and you don't get to kind of work on any other things, right? Right now, like, people they're people so nice, right? They can actually look at other things, but they're still looking at us, right? They do multitasking. People do one important task, at the same time, they handle other tasks, right? They handle not just one task, 2, 3, 4 tasks. Some tasks are in parallel processing, right? They do, there is some term called vibe coding, which means that you don't code, you prompt, and the code will get generated. It's called vibe coding. So now people tell that this is not vibe coding, this is vibe waiting, because coding is done by AI, right? And I'm waiting here because it takes almost 8-10 minutes for the complete coding to be deployed. So I'm waiting. What do I do with this now? So while I'm waiting, I'm kind of playing around, talking to people, or sending memes or reels or all that, right? So there is a lot of, human time you're getting in the process, which was not happening earlier. Imagine, say, in manufacturing, like people say, like recently I watched a video called dark factories, right? Dark factories are basically factories where no humans work, and they're dark. Why? Because machines don't need light. Only humans need light to see things. So all dark factories, only one supervisor in the place of, say, like 200 people, right? The supervisor is there only to see if there is any problem with the machines, right? It's like a machine supervisor. For an entire floor, there'll be one machine supervisor who will be sitting in his cabin, which is well lit, and the rest of the factory is dark. And you will see massive amounts of productivity happening there. You don't have to worry about safety, because human safety is not a problem there because it is machines. The speed at which it operates is much bigger. There's no hardcore emotional problems out there, because wherever the humans are there are a lot of emotional problems which people have to manage, right? So fundamentally, we are moving, there is a quite shift of power from people who are, say, running companies, who used to manage a lot of people, to a set of people who don't need people. So earlier, the entire efforts was to manage people, emotions, work culture, communities, townships, and everything. If you look at Tata itself, kind of set up a huge community township to help people to feel good about where they are doing and what they're doing right. They don't need that now. They all have to focus on very select few people who can actually manage AI agents or dark factories where AI robotics can work, right? So people might find this as a little bit of science fiction, but it's not, right? Because it's already there. Why probably in India we don't see much of things is because still there is a lot of people available for cheap labor. Why? You may not find humanoids coming here for next 5 years, maybe except for like in say heavily expensive cities like say Bandra, Carter Road, where people don't. Even in Bombay, you get a lot of people who are ready to work for 10,000, 15,000, right? But a humanoid will cost 1.5 lakhs or 2 lakhs for getting the job done. Right? So anybody who can afford that also can get cheap labor. But whereas in countries where labor itself is expensive, say for example,
like most of the European countries are
very expensive, and it is expensive. Secondly, highly risky also because any problem with the labor can kind of get you in trouble, right? So both of it kind of makes humanoids much more possible there in those markets. There are a lot of jobs which people don't want to do, right? Like right now, if you ask any young person, do you want to do 100 calls per day?
cold calling and
cold calling, you should be a cursed person to do that job.
feeling rejected.
You're feeling rejected and you feel, the attrition is very high, like 30-40% of attrition in those companies where people stay at least for, not more than like 4 to 6 months, right? Very hard to do 100 calls and get rejected every day. You have better things to do, right? So, is AI helping humanity to do those kind of jobs which people hated? Is AI helping them to do the jobs which they were always frustrated about? Is AI helping them to do things which they never could do before, right? Is AI helping them to do more creative job, which not everyone is a creative person. So if it is helping, if I am able to make an AI advertisement film, right, without having to go through the whole process of making it, like, the pre AI era of making it was huge, right? You have to spend a lot of creative energy to do that. But now AI is doing the heavy lifting. The whole job, if you look at all the jobs, AI is doing the heavy lifting for us and we are able to enjoy it. Right? Be it the therapy, be it everything, right? So if you see it as a heavy lifter and we becoming more of like the master of that heavy lifter, right? Then it gives you a lot of peace, right? You know that, okay, this is getting jobs done for me, right? But again, that's only for people who think like an enterprise leader, right? Not for employees, right? Because employees might immediately feel that where is my relevance? So recently I was speaking to a senior banking leader and where I did a program and he keeps calling me for something or other, right? And he said something very interesting yesterday. He said that now employees are constantly pitching their why they exist. Because somehow they felt that you have to constantly prove that your role is important. Earlier it was not required because the need was not there. But when some of the tasks which you used to do with a lot of effort is done by an AI agent, suddenly you feel like, okay, it used to take 10 hours for me, now it is getting done in 20 minutes. So my entire work portfolio now requires a refocus. So for example, there are 10 items in my portfolio and if 5 can be done with AI, then I have only 5 left now. Can I now recreate a new portfolio for me so that I kind of is becoming more important or relevant? I can stay relevant for more time. And people have started thinking like that. So it's, but there is a problem in this thinking. Like instead of competing with AI to prove your existence, why not you collaborate with AI and you become more powerful so that you can give more services to others? So I think that's a mindset which will slowly move to, because the last 100 years of knowledge work which you've been used to is more of like employee mindset. You're an employee, you offer your time, you offer your services to people, you get your salary, you get your fee, right? We never thought of it as a builder. There's only less than 5% of the people who are like thinking like a builder, entrepreneur, or a system builder, or a creator. Like the rest of the people are offering services to them to get stuff done. Right? AI is shifting that power. Right? So only 5% of the people took that risk of getting to do something. Why? Because it took a lot of agency to do that. Now maybe 25% people can do that. And by the time in the next 5 years, that I think every one of us will be some kind of a builder, some kind of a creator, because we are able to do it faster.
I think looking at that, as you said, it freed up a lot of time. And as long as you have the mindset of, yes, instead of coming from a scarcity or I'm going to get lost to it and I'm competing with AI and AI is going to take over whatever I did.
Yeah.
This collaboration mindset plays a key role here. And talking about, you're saying about, one of the prompts on teach me about velocity, like, and make it entertaining. I think it was an interview with Elon Musk. And he was saying, okay, he's a very controversial figure, but there are a few interviews where when I was listening to that, I was like, wow. And he was saying, if there is one single thread that can pull and solve a lot of problems in the world, which is education. Because once you're educated, your mind frees up and you're able to think beyond your limitations. And he was saying the future belongs to somebody who can come up with an educational system that makes it as addictive as a video game, like education. And I think to a great extent, if you use AI to that level, you get very. So when I look back, I used to be quite bad in Hindi because nobody spoke Hindi in my home, or when you go outside, nobody spoke Hindi. And I speak Tamil at home, and you step out, you speak Malayalam. And then my dad put me in an English medium school thinking that, you need a global exposure. And then he also wanted me to study Sanskrit because in future somebody has to take over and learn Ayurveda. So I had to study Sanskrit. And then on top of that, the government of India said you have to learn Hindi. So for me, that was a very challenging part to learn Hindi until I got a teacher who was very entertaining in teaching me Hindi. So that entertainment factor is like, and some people used to say, learning has to be entertaining. And if it is not entertaining, then it is not worth it. And we all are somebody who's very curious. Our mind is curious. And if you look at the word for mind in Sanskrit, it means manas. It means to predict, to calculate, to analyze. And we all like to analyze and do that. And I think AI can be a great partner if you look at it in that perspective.
Absolutely. Just to add to what you said, like teaching, right? Now, what if you know there is a classic teacher who was pretty famous for teaching, say, physics, say, for example, Richard Feynman, right? So, what if you ask ChatGPT that teach me velocity like how Richard Feynman teaches me, and you're going to be surprised. And the way it is going to narrate that concept, like not just velocity, any physics concepts, right? We have an MIT professor who's celebrated as a great teacher of physics, right? Like Richard Feynman, teaching you directly through AI of any concepts in physics. Now, this may sound like just an amusing idea for us, but what if you are 10 right now, 10-year-old, and you have this access? How you can evolve to be a person who is supremely interested in the particular topic, taught by the best professor in the world in physics, right? At the age of 10, and who is like living in Kerala, right? They are not in Michigan or Massachusetts, right? They are living in Kerala. This is a great opportunity, right? And as I think more of it, like, I wish that now we can go and like tell this to more children, right? I know whether they're excited about it, but look at it like an opportunity. How would that be? Like the kind of people whom we are growing, right, in our homes will be different, even though the environment is different, they're getting the AI's intelligence, the best teachers in the world, all trying to explain things, right? So there is other thing to it. Like, so earlier we asked a lot of questions to the parents, right? Now, if you look at, still children ask questions to the parents, but not fact-based questions. Like children ask like, fact-based questions to parents earlier. Like right now, they don't want parents to answer any of the fact-based questions because they're better sources of information for facts. But they would rather want to know highly contextual stuff, right? Hey, how were you during your college days? Which you can't ask AI, right? So people have shifted the questions from facts to more personal questions to connect with them more and more, right? I remember asking my dad a lot of facts-based questions, right? Right now, my son didn't have to do that, right? He can go and check it, right? And I mean, get far more better view of things. So the opportunities for education, right? So people may say, "Oh, this is only for children." No, not exactly. So I recently read a book called Fluid Intelligence, and in this book, the whole idea is that okay, you're a doctor, you're a healer, right? Now, what if you want to pick up an interest about history, right? And maybe you don't have to become a historian to pick up interest in history, right? You probably have a goal of, say, writing about Ayurvedic history in Kerala, right? You might think, oh, this is huge, right? It might require you to kind of go and do a crazy amount of work compared to probably who tried to do 10 years back. But I can tell you this, with this AI plus fluid intelligence, if you go seriously into exploring this, you will be probably able to come up with a highly well documented book in, say, like maybe 1 year. And consider you can do it in 6 months also, but I'm saying like 1 year. And that's the opportunity right now. Earlier, this was impossible. Like you said, the 30-year game, right? Those 30-year games have now shrunken to, say, like 1-2 year games now. If it is exciting, it is exciting.
It's like a exponential changes that we are seeing.
Absolutely. And people always ask for how many years of experience you have, right? Like if I say 20, wow, okay, 20 years, great, right? But if you really look at it, like in these 20 years, the number of problems I would have solved on that particular thing which he is seeking for might be like a couple of problems, right? So the question itself is wrong actually. So you should say like, hey, this is my problem. Have you solved this before? How often have you solved this? Secondly, if you have not solved this, have you heard about this problem yet? Right. So I think the way we to understand the credentials of someone has to change. Even today, people ask, like, where did you study? Right. Talking about, so someone like me, I'm 44 now. Right. If someone like me, if somebody is asking me like, where did you study? It doesn't matter because I've already covered 24 years of my the work and experience and exposure, all that. It doesn't matter. Even if it is a great institute, it doesn't matter, right? Even if I went to the premier institution, it doesn't matter. Why? Because the whole 24 years of experience of working with a variety of people, variety of problems would have probably either augmented it or would have made that thing whole irrelevant, right? So in India, people still trust credentials. Why? Because it's a low trust society. The reason why, we have to put out our best, right, all the time, show our credentials, is because we are living in a low trust society, right? And AI is actually kind of changing the whole game, right? When it comes to people who never probably, and I'm sure the next 2-3 years, people will see a new set of experts, right, who never got academically structured knowledge, but rather they're all coming from AI powered knowledge, which means that they never went to probably like a management institute, but they solved much bigger problems than that, right? So even if you go to a management institute, what are they going to teach you? Like they will teach you prompting, they will teach you how to use Gen AI for solving your strategic problems, right? So the reason, like the earlier model of ChatGPT called O3 model was considered to be the McKinsey of models, right? Which means that you give a problem of how a McKinsey consultant frames with the company, give the problem to ChatGPT, ask McKinsey consultant to kind of independently work on it. ChatGPT would have given far better strategic reasoned answers, which the company would probably appreciate.
For 1 millionth the price.
Less than $20, right? Now, the reason why most of these big companies are using AI seriously, they've kind of empowered all their consultants to subscribe or at least 5-6 tools. Use it extensively. You don't have to even think of it. Use it extensively because you can't replace the time at which they come up with reasoning, right? This is called advanced reasoning models, right? So imagine a human has to kind of spend a lot of time, get this reasoning done for a company, understand a lot of context. It takes a lot of time. So look at every function of jobs which we celebrated over a period of like last 25 years is getting questioned. Why? Because AI is potentially making it easier, making it faster. You and probably if you tomorrow you want to do a strategy consulting for your own institution, right? You don't have to probably bring a consultant. All you have to do is maybe to start with the conversation, you may bring a consultant later, but the point is you have every canvas in your mind, which can be laid out, and you can even give a scope of work which to the consultant, hey, this is the scope of work exactly I want to work on, right? And you can start from say level 3. Earlier we had to level 0. You start from level 3, you and ChatGPT working together level 3, and then you bring in consultants and it becomes actionable. Earlier it took a lot of time from say curiosity to action, right? Because you become curious and you become competent, and then you become competent, you bring in people, collaborators, and then you act on it, right? So the curiosity plus competence is now with AI. Then you bring collaborators and then you act on it, right? So this is the consulting model which is emerging, and it's like beyond like while we speak itself, right? So we see these 700 million users giving reinforcement learning and improving models, and you try maybe a new use case tomorrow, you'll be able to see it far more surprising results than like what you tried 2 weeks back. So just to give an example, so I was talking to an architecture professor and I asked him like whether you were using AI, at your work, and he said we tried, but it didn't quite give the results we wanted. And I asked like, when did you try? So he said 6 months back. I said, then you gave up? Yeah, it didn't give. It was not able to give. It was super critical. I have no idea about architecture, but then I trying to pick up some problem statements and then worked with the ChatGPT 5 and share the thread with him. I asked him like, I don't know how to verify this output, but if you can, that'd be great. He replied saying that this is super interesting and is very accurate. Then I called him next day and asked him like, I mean, now you seem to be very positive. What happened? He said something very interesting. He said, I should have actually tried the same use case very often to see whether AI is evolved or not. If I kind of gave a problem statement, if it didn't work, I can't judge that AI will never improve in it. It's not right. So there is a saying, whatever AI use case you're trying today, assume that this is the worst thing you will ever see. Tomorrow it's going to be 1% better. Just like Sam Altman said that GPT-4 is going to be the dumbest model you ever see. It can be both, right? Means that GPT-4 is good, but you will feel it is dumb the moment you start using GPT-5. Same thing, right? You tried a architecture use case 6 months back, it didn't work. Doesn't mean it won't work. It is working super accurately right now. This is exactly the Mendel model most of us are missing, right? Because we assume that AI won't improve in that. We don't try again. And the point of inviting AI to the table, even if you're not really sure about whether AI can do it or not, that's the right model. You don't have to assume whether AI can do it or not. All you have to do is, okay, I have a problem. I've never tried with AI. Let me try it. Maybe if it is not able to do today, I'll wait for probably tomorrow, right? And you have a use case which is getting built in that process, right? Today, it is not able to analyze, say, 1,000-page report. GPT-5 is able to do that. Whereas 2 months back, it could only read 300-page report because the context window limitation was 300 pages. And if I go with the same mindset with GPT-5, then it's not right because it can read more than that. It can read double. Actually, it can read 700 pages right now. So this is the way we as a user can collaborate with AI, believing in its potential, right? And to see what it can do day in, day out. Like, the reason why I said like, we need to have a variety of use cases tried with AI. So in the large language model context, there are almost 200 questions. Some are reasoning, some are verbal, some are creative, some are arithmetical, some are mathematical, some are analytical. Set of questions, 200 questions, which all the AI researchers will keep putting on various LLMs to see how they progress. So today I put like GPT-5 200 questions. I would have put this same questions to GPT-4 and I would have got the results. And you compare between both of it. There's a great progress in arithmetic power, great progress in reasoning
It's
power.
like the developmental of the brain from a 4-year-old to 5-year-old to 6-year-old.
Exactly. Right now, that's the reason. I think you said it right. So GPT-5 is now the most curious, deep researcher, scholar, PhD scholar right now. whereas GPT-4 was like a high schooler, a very, very interesting high schooler. And that's how it is happening.
That's quite interesting. And I was like, when you were saying about how, how the 4 and 5 is different, like, and we are comparing it to the developmental milestone of a child. I used to sometimes think, and what was our brain? Actually, if you look at our brain, I think our brain was God's experiment with our AI. Our brain was God's AI. And now we are creating a new AI from that. And actually, people say AI is like, it's trying to mimic the human brain. It's trying to compute and compound things like how the brain will function. But you said that, brains can get tired, but the AI will not get tired.
Absolutely. So if you look at like, the brain takes the most of energy in
20% of our food we
even though the size is like much lesser, right? The disproportionate amount of energy is taken by brain. Obviously, AI also takes a lot of energy, GPU, all that. One thing about AI as a term, like, I always wonder why this is called as artificial, right? So there was a very interesting take from, I think, Satya Nadella for that matter. He said, instead of calling AI, because this term itself came in 1960, so I think it's time to kind of look at it in a different way. He said, like, this is not artificial in that way. This is a different kind of intelligence, right? And we keep comparing our intelligence with AI all the time. And that's not a great way of, there is no comparison between our intelligence and artificial intelligence, right? What if you are powered by something entirely different, a different kind of intelligence? We have human intelligence, right? And people say, do AI has consciousness? Well, that's not the purpose of AI, right? The having consciousness for AI is not at all the purpose of AI, right? That's a human thing, right? This is a different kind of intelligence. This is constructed intelligence, which means we have constructed it, right? And now, say, I always talk about unsupervised learning as a way, like, for example, if we have children at home, right? We teach certain things to them. Till some age, it would take the content seriously. After they reach college, right, they would unlearn everything. Whatever we said, this is old school, right? They even call it old school learning, right? They start learning from the environment, self-learning, and they become absolutely new individuals. We have no control over it, right? And the reason why even the most strictest parents have children who don't even agree to anything they say. Why? Because they've grown up in that environment, but then grew out of it. Like they grew out of the mental models, the ways they think, right? Because they picked up so much of things from the environment, the other environment, right? So that's the way I see. We started with structured learning, teaching it what exactly to think, how to think, what to label and everything. And slowly AI became independent, started learning in itself, went for unsupervised learning. And then it takes feedback, but fast feedback, and then starts working on it, right? So that's the only relatable metaphor I can see to see where we are going. But otherwise, this is an entirely different intelligence. No potential of comparison with what we do with our mind, with our emotions. Like, so why do we have to compare itself? All we have to do is like, imagine we got, say, a highly powerful thing and like a monster, like a really powerful monster, which we can use for anything with very high level of power. So, for example, have you seen, people operating JCBs, right? How do they sit? They might be like small people, but they have very high power in hands with them. They can actually move like a mountains. They can literally move the mountain. Why? Because the JCB has the power, right? And you're not using the entire power to move the mountain. You're using a small bit of what do you call it? JCB joystick to get it done, right? So AI has that. I mean, treating AI like that would help us
leverage,
right? And if you really ask, JCB replaced a lot of stone cutters. Right? I mean, easily 100 replacement done with one JCB, like, but nobody complained that because that's how it works.
But if you speak to environmentalists, they have another opinion. But that's how the world evolves. We have to see the.
So any advancement for that matter, like for example, Industrial Revolution created a mess of pollution. Urbanization created a mess of like people having to go through like urbanization based illnesses, right? Like, pollution and everything, right? So people ask like, what's the mess AI is going to create?
I suppose.
I don't have an answer, but probably we can think of some scenarios where like you kind of nudge that, like you get a lot of time. right? And where is income coming in from, right? Like if every job is kind of replaceable, how will probably people earn money from, like, so you have to earn money to run the economies, right? And scenarios where the reason why this is going to be a slow journey, right? AI may advance 100x faster, societies may adapt it, say, for example, 5x faster.
Or even less.
Even less, right? No, in 2000, when internet launched, right, like people thought that, oh, internet is good. Maybe you can send email. Maybe I can see some websites. That's the use case they thought of, right? And right now you see, like, now if you want a coffee here, I can go Instamart, get it here, right? It's like, we never thought that it would turn out to be like a 10-minute commerce, right? We never had that intention when internet launched. All we wanted said, I'm in India, I want to send an email to someone in Delhi or New York, I can do this, right? I don't have to pay courier charges for this. That's the whole use case. Similar, when ChatGPT got launched, people started using it for, hey, I can now write better emails.
Is it true that India Post is closing down?
I heard so.
I don't know the truth about it. I hope it's a rumor. But
Yeah,
if that is the truth, then I can also,
it's
I'm not
crazy.
surprised also.
It's crazy. I mean, India Post is like a network of,
Yeah,
actually, it's like Indian Railways.
yeah,
where
exactly.
It unified India to one level, right? Like that. They've started something called DigiPin, which helps you to locate yourself in a particular location. So the first time is an internet-based pin for every individual, right? Just like a postal address, right? Which is interesting.
Yeah. How can you get good at prompting? How do you give good prompts? Like, is there any basics? What qualifies as a super prompt and an average prompt? And just let's say I want to use it for my health benefits, or let's say cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm sure people who are listening to this episode who must be all looking for mental health or general well-being.
Right. So if you want to interact with AI and get the best out of it, we need to collaborate with it in the way it understands. Right? So of course now it understands English, and how do you articulate it better? So prompting is basically the articulating game, right? Now if you just want to give an example on what you said, CBT, like I want
Cognitive behavioral.
AI to act like a cognitive behavioral therapist who is based in India and has experience in dealing with, say, urban professionals working in technology, who is also super empathetic, at the same time can ask me perspective shifting questions. Makes a lot of questions because each therapist behaviors are different, right? But you are defining what kind of therapist would work on you because you know yourself. You would probably want AI to kind of take a role persona, which the way you want, right? You're defining that whom you want to work with. Secondly, you said that, over the last 3-4 months, I've been feeling this particular emotions, right? And it's been kind of worrying me for some time. It's consuming a lot of my mind space. Like, it's a real feeling, right? Now I want to hold conversations on a daily basis, right? On things which are happening every day and give me perspectives which can help me to understand what's happening, awareness. Thirdly, help me to become more grateful if I want to. Fourthly, how these conversations can help me to ask myself better questions, right? Now, for someone, a user, this might look like a lot of context, right? Instead, like, so this is a very, very mature kind of prompt. What if you don't have time for this? You would say, okay, give me 10 questions which a CBT would ask me. Throw you 10 questions. Pick up one question and say that, okay, what if? So in one question, it may want you to kind of share some context, right? Pick up the question and say, this is my context. Now help me with better. So you can have probably a structured kind of a conversation, or thirdly, a very discoverable kind of a conversation. So one is, most of people discover, like this discovery itself is fun, right? The reason why a lot of people don't do very structured prompting is because they want to discover new things with AI. Because structured prompting will kind of give very structured output, right? But on the other hand, the users want to discover, they want to get surprised by it. So the element of surprise which they get, like, get a question back is fun, right? Thirdly, a lot of people use voice because writing down itself is a huge task. So if you look at recently, not sure if you've kind of had the chance to do the voice assistant of AI.
Yes.
ChatGPT, it's pretty good, right? Because you have different personas, like depending on what you want, and it does a great job.
Mm.
And I know how it was like almost 6 months back. I know how it was 1 year back. I know how it was 2 years back. Tremendous improvement in terms of voice, especially empathy, especially the way it understands, especially the way it nudges you, especially it holds the conversation. So the beauty of the conversation is not in the content itself, right? So the content, anyone can do it. But the ability to hold the conversation for a longer period of time, the ability to keep you hooked into it, like all that really matters, right? So, like we spoke about Alan Turing test, I think ChatGPT is getting almost there when it comes to passing the Alan Turing test when it comes to voice agent. Now, this could be used for CBT. Like I know a lot of senior professionals who they know I work in the AI, so they keep coming back and say, hey, I use this, it's crazy, it's good. And they kind of keep feeding me with use cases. They also discover new use cases and tell me. One of the ways is voice-based conversations. Second is you can even say, give the role to AI, saying that, hey, I'm having a tough review tomorrow with an investor. And this is a context. You can just upload the PDF into the context and say, now ask me questions which I should be prepared for tomorrow's call. And act like a super critical investor. So AI is going to take up the role of the super critical investor, go to data, read every bit and ask you questions, and you can prepare yourself like a role play. People do that. I mean, seriously. And people who have done that have far more ability to stay on ground during the conversation.
Is the meeting.
Role play, right? So voice-based teaching, education is huge. Like for example, India as a country has, not much of access. So for example, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities don't have access to like good teachers, right? Or maybe English teachers for that matter. What if a student really wants to improve English? The best way is to go to ChatGPT, keep talking every day for like 30 minutes, right? On any topic.
And you could speak in your local mother tongue.
You can,
and
it does well, right? So what you're getting is an direct access to a expert who is ready to speak, who has a voice, who can hold the conversation, who is empathetic. And moreover, after the conversation, you have the entire text out there, which is transcribed, which means that it's not going anywhere, right? It's not just voice. The entire voice is transcribed and put it on the chat itself. So people do now voice-based prompting, which means that if you want to share an entire context, like you don't have to write everything, this is the problem I have. Say, for example, you have 2 minutes of conversation on AI and that becomes a prompt. And if you notice that prompt is a well-written prompt. It is not what we spoke about. There are two things happening. One is voice, then transcription, then it transcribed content is rewritten as a prompt. And that itself is a good prompt because ChatGPT knows what kind of prompt can work well with ChatGPT itself, right? So that will go. So you are constructing a prompt through voice and you're using that prompt to interact with AI better, right? The reason why voice is a favorite to a lot of people.
It's quite interesting how we are going to, and you said you're a millennial. Yeah, being a millennial, I think we got the front row seats to see the real migration from pre-internet.
Absolutely. So my son asked me, why are you so excited? I said, I'm excited. Why? Because I've seen all the three phases. Right? I've seen the era where internet was not there, 1998. I've seen dial-up connection. If you ask me, I was the first person who bought the computer in my village, right? Like with dial-up connection, and it was crazy. 15 minutes it goes, right? Then we saw the Reliance Jio revolution, 2015, where you get internet almost free.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had unlimited data and everything, and you were going wild. And you saw the social media revolution, where we going part of every social media, and then you have the YouTube revolution, where you have the content creator economy coming in. So you've seen everything, right? So in the last 20 years, it's a lot. And I would still say that in 2022 to 2025, what we've seen with Gen AI is absolutely no comparison to what we've seen earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
This is crazy.
And when I still remember in 2000, people would come and tell, you should try this thing called Google. And I was like, okay, what is Google? Then you go and try, and then you had this huge box and you type and tuck tuck tuck. It was like just a replica of typewriter.
Right.
And now today people talk about AI and what it is doing. Quite interesting. And we are up for some what we used to see in James Bond movies. Now we see it in real life.
Exactly.
Thank you, Krishnamar. It was a very beautiful, eye-opening, enlightening curiosity. We entered a lot of dimensions, and to see how we can actually use it for health. And I'm seeing how it is going in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vignesh. Pleasure to have me here.